As the Boston Bruins begin a three-game Western Conference road trip, Locked On Boston Bruins listeners have questions about the biggest area of need for this team right now, the goaltending, and more. I'm going to answer those questions, talk about some great advice that Ray Bourque gave to Brad Marchand back in the day, and also tee up tonight's game against the Colorado Avalanche. So let's get into it.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be, as well as take a look around the NHL. Today is Wednesday, January 26th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. The podcast is free and available on all platforms, and you can download, listen, and enjoy at your leisure on a daily basis. The podcast is also available on YouTube, so you can watch and catch a glimpse of my home office in our living room, as well as Bessie the cat, who is quite noisy over the last couple days, perhaps in anticipation of being spayed on Friday. Poor girl. The Bruins in Colorado tonight to take on the Avalanche. I put out a call to answer some questions, or for you to ask some questions for me to answer on today's podcast. And I got a few good ones. Before I answer those, a quick reminder that you can follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my dad jokes, hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. Now, let's get into some questions. A few great ones from Instagram. A user whose name is Stan Kennedy asks, what's the one key component the Bees are missing to keep them from being first or second in the division? Great question. And I think if you look at the Bruins position by position, obviously in net, on paper, they're quite strong. We talked yesterday about how Tuukka Rask has yet to find his game and still some work to be done in order to shake off that rust, kind of that catch 20 Tuukka, if you will, where they need him to play in order to find his game. But while he's playing, he doesn't have his game, so you kind of have to take those bumps along the way. But all things considered, it's quite a luxury for the Bruins to have Rask and Ullmark signed for $6 million and then have a third goalie who's more than capable of stepping in if necessary. On defense, a lot of questions about adding a solid left-hand defenseman, like a top pair left-hand defenseman, although I'd argue that Matt Grzelcyk is that defenseman alongside Charlie McAvoy. Urho Vakanainen has played that role as well. I'm more concerned about the depth behind Charlie McAvoy, Brandon Carlo. All due respect to Connor Clifton, don't really see him as a full 82-game option there or kind of a key cog on a Stanley Cup winning team. So I'd like to see some depth added there. Perhaps Vakanainen could move to the right side where you have Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Riley, Carlo, Forbort, Vakanainen. That could be something. When it comes to the biggest area of need for the Boston Bruins in the present and looking down the road, it's clearly the center position. You have Patrice Bergeron, who remains elite. I've kind of argued that with Taylor Hall and David Pastrnak playing so well on the wings and the second line, it maybe doesn't matter who plays center, but that is an overstatement. Eric Howla, Charlie Coyle, Thomas Nosek, they're good depth centers, but they're not top line or even second line centers on teams above them in the standings. You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. They obviously have Tavares and Austin Matthews, 1-2 down the middle. Those are exceptional talents, to be sure. Although, Tavares, not the player that he once was, but still quite a good center. In Florida, you have Alexander Barkov and Sam Bennett. Pretty good 1-2 punch down the middle. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning, you have Braden Point and Steven Stamkos, which is an elite combo down the middle. So for the Bruins to be up there with those teams, they need to find that second line center, that huge hole that was left by David Krejci. If he was still around, I could see them being able to challenge one of those teams a bit better. A follow-up question along those lines comes from Vegan Bruin. Do you ultimately think Claude Giroux ends up in black and gold? The Philadelphia Flyers well out of the playoff race, and they look to be maybe not rebuilding, but certainly retooling. Claude Giroux set to become an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. He's still a very good, he hasn't always played center over the last couple of years. They've shifted him to the wing, but he's still a very capable center. He's making $8.275 million this season. Obviously, that would be prorated over the balance of the season. His remaining cap hit is $3.84875 million. 34 years old. This season, he's got 15 goals, 19 assists, 34 points. I would love to see him in black and gold, to be honest. Bergeron, Giroux, that would be quite a duo down the middle. How likely it is, it all depends on how many people are in on him and what kind of prices the Flyers are asking. There are a lot of potential centers available. You have Joe Pavelski in Dallas. If they fall out of the playoff race, Thomas Hertl would be the most attractive choice. I'm still big on Dylan Strome down the middle as the cheapest option with a potentially high ceiling. But yeah, Giroux, I would say at this point, it's, 30% chance that he ends up in black and gold, 25% chance. I could see some other teams, especially the Colorado Avalanche, really making a play for him. They seem to be in on everybody. A lot of teams looking for help down the middle. It's not a problem that's unique to the Boston Bruins. Everybody's always looking for depth down the middle. Everybody's always looking for depth on defense. And if Giroux is made available, I'm sure there will be quite a bit of general managers inquiring about his availability. Last questions comes from Prabjot Baines 96. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Do you think Tuukka will shake off the rust? If not, do you see the Bruins running with 3 goalies? Ultimately, I do see Tuukka shaking off the rust. Again, he had no training camp, no preseason, no games in the AHL. These are all luxuries that NHL players are afforded in order to get into midseason shape and to get off to a good start. Like I said yesterday, the hope is he'll be in midseason form by the postseason, and midseason form, Tuukka remains a high-end goaltender. They could roll with 3 goalies, later on this season, but I think they're content right now to allow Jeremy Swayman to continue to play at a high level in the AHL and give Rask, a couple more weeks at least to try to find his game. If it's still an issue into, mid-February, then this is a question that we'll have to ask with a bit more intensity. Thank you so much for sending in those questions. You can always do so at LockedNHL Bruins on Instagram or Twitter, or at Ian C. McLaren on both platforms as well. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar out there. It's a new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. We're well into January now. If your resolution is about getting fit or eating healthier, you need to make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and it makes it easy to stick to your resolutions because they taste so good. You'll want to eat a Built Bar. You want to eat it healthy, but it just gets so boring by like week 3. You're thinking, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. And even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. About 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. So many great flavors to choose from, and they're always coming out with new limited time flavors. So check out built.com often to see what's new. When you go to checkout, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order at built.com. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Thank you again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. You can check out the Locked On Now podcast as your second listen. All the big stories you need from around the NHL from last night's action. Now, Brad Marchand did not practice on Tuesday as a result of the bump that he took. Maybe that's being generous, from Garnet Hathaway last week. We'll talk about the lineup here in a second, but he did meet with the media, and he was asked about the kind of viral video from last week where he took a fan's phone and recorded a video prior to the game saying, "Hope you have fun. I know I am." This was the game that he did get injured, so probably didn't have a lot of fun that game. But he said that he credits Ray Bourque for giving him some advice when he was just 19 years old that has stuck with him all these years. Marchand said, "I'll never forget what Ray said." He's come back to it a lot. It's very easy when you get comfortable in the league or comfortable in the organization to kind of forget where you're at, forget how fortunate we are, how lucky we are to be in the position we're in, to be living our dreams, living other people's dreams. You kind of take it for granted at times. This was at a charity event, again, when Marchand was only 19. Ray Bourque sat him down and told him this. He said, "When every kid that wants an autograph, every kid that approaches you or wants to talk to you, just remember, enjoy it. Don't take it for granted. Enjoy those moments, because when you retire and nobody cares anymore, nobody cares about what you've done or who you are. You're not relevant, essentially. It's always the new players that are in the league, the superstars that are in the league at that point that they care about." I mean, Ray Bourque, people still care about him. People are still going to care about Brad Marchand for quite some time, but he said it's something that he's come back to a lot, and he thinks it keeps him grounded, keeps him humble, makes him understand how fortunate he is as a Boston Bruin, as an NHL player. And, that advice coming from one of the best players to ever play the game, when he's talking like that, it hits home. And he thought it was good advice to learn at a young age. And again, of last week's viral video, he said he was coming off the ice. He always gives fist bumps to the kids coming off, at times stopping to sign some stuff. A kid got out a phone and was hanging it over the glass, so he kind of took it, was just joking around. And then he saw that it was recording a video, so he figured he'd leave a little message. That'd be pretty cool when you get the phone back and look back at it, have those keepsakes from the game. You have to get prepared to do the job and everything, but he remembers being a kid, the Bruins, and he thinks it was Tampa, played in Halifax, and he was hanging over the walkway as a kid himself. Amazing to see the players and have them interact. Always good to do. The kids remember that, enjoy it, and he thought it was a pretty cool keepsake, and certainly it is. Brad Marchand certainly endearing himself to the the fans lately. And I wanted to mention another thing that he did recently, where he recognized a young Cape Breton player for an anti-racism campaign. This was in Nova Scotia, where Brad Marchand is from. There was a 19-year-old named Logan Prosper. He was in Halifax when a long-anticipated package landed at his home, a signed jersey from Brad Marchand. The arrival of the jersey was almost 2 years in the making and got started at after Prosper, a forward for the Cape Breton West Island minor hockey team at the time, was subjected to racist slurs by players and fans during a game. It didn't take long for people to catch on to what had happened, and Prosper's father, Philip, met an old friend of Brad Marchand, who is from Halifax, and said, this friend said, I'm going to see if Brad can send him a jersey. And then, lo and behold, it arrived last week. He checked the mail, and he got the jersey with Brad Marchand's signature on it. And, Prosper said he's his favorite player. Been Bruins fans forever, so that's what makes it so special. He's going to get a shadow box and put it on the wall. He signed Bessie, get out of the way. So really cool thing for Brad Marchand to do, and it's really cool to see that this movement is taking off. Anti-racism, amazing for Brad Marchand to get involved in this particular situation, the story, and really appreciate Brad Marchand jumping aboard. People have been wrapping their sticks in red tape to support Prosper and their commitment to end racism on and off the ice. And Marchand wrote red tape on the jersey as well as a nice little addition to his signature to show his support for the movement. So good on Brad Marchand for not just having fun with the fans, but getting involved in some serious key issues as well that are very relevant, sadly, still this week. Now, BetOnline is the best place to wager on all your sports in 2022. They have a new updated desktop and mobile website that you can sign up for today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code LOCKEDON. They have you covered for the football conference championships, basketball, hockey, of course. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager in all your favorite sports. Again, use promo code LOCKEDON for that 50% welcome bonus at BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, the Bruins are in Colorado tonight to take on the NHL's best team in the Avalanche. Brad Marchand, like I said, didn't practice on Tuesday because of that upper body injury he suffered last Thursday against the Capitals. He hasn't missed a game, though, but Bruce Cassidy said he is still fighting his way through. No doubt he's playing hurt. There are guys that have a higher pain tolerance that can play through it, and other guys need maintenance. Probably 3 or 4 guys that aren't 100% at this time, but they're good enough to help the team win. It's a bit early in the season to be fighting through injuries. You worry about re-aggravating it or making it worse, having to miss even more time than you would have initially. But it seems as though it's something that Marchand can play through for the time being. Nick Foligno, not on the trip after suffering an upper body injury in the game the other night against Anaheim. Matt Grzelcyk did return to practice after missing that game against the Ducks. Probably going to suit up tonight. And Anton Bleed making the trip as well. He could be a replacement for Nick Foligno. Now, the Avalanche, a high-powered team. They lead the NHL with 61 points. They have 3 players in the top 16 in the NHL scoring race in Nazem Kadri, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon. They've won 7 in a row, 16 straight on home ice. So it's going to be a very tough test for the Boston Bruins. And not sure who's going to start for them, but Pavel Francouz has recorded 2 straight shutouts for the Avs. Actually, they're in second place right now in points, 61 compared to Florida's 63, but they have a league high 762 point percentage and a league second best plus 49 goal differential. Florida Panthers in first. So it's going to be a tough game for the Bruins. A late one, 10 o'clock Eastern start. I'm going to be honest, not sure if I'll make it through it, but definitely be back on the podcast tomorrow to recap the game, to talk about where the Bruins stand after a bit of a measuring stick game. If they can stand tall against the Avs, that would be very encouraging. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for sending in those questions. I hope you're all having a great week so far. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day on social media. Mixed feelings about, the big corporation taking this on. Obviously, mental health is very important. It's important to talk about it. It's important to support each other. And hopefully this podcast is a positive distraction for you with whatever is going on in your life. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. And we'll be back tomorrow with a fresh episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.